Hey everybody, we are here on class 8. I'm so excited. We have another great night of class and already have some awesome chat going on, which I love. So great. We got a big night ahead. We got a heavy topic that I'm going to give you some more information, but welcome to everyone. If you are watching this live, if you're watching in the replay, everyone is welcome. I love interaction. If you have been watching this every night and you haven't gotten in the chat yet, I am going to recommend that you get into the chat tonight because you get a lot out of it. Or if you're watching on the replay, go ahead and write something down in the comments and just say hello and maybe where you're from and where you're watching and if you've watched all of them. I'm very curious to find out about you and who's watching this. This class is open to everyone, whether you are expecting a baby in your future, if you work with people expecting babies, like me, a doula, childbirth educator, birth professional, or if you're just curious about the topic and you want to be here, you are welcome. My name is Alice Turner. I am a doula, a childbirth educator, and on my channel, I try to make videos to help people prepare for a positive birth experience. And if I am doing that here tonight and you are appreciating what you're seeing, please hit the like button and let me know. If you ever have thoughts or ideas about content that you'd like to see on the channel, let me know in the comments or in the chat or anywhere. Welcome to all these faces that I know and have gotten to know over the last 8 days or 7 days so far. I see Hunter and Tim is here, our new dad in the group. Awesome. We've got Samantha Connolly, RU 26261, Tara, and so many friends. And I wrote a little note to myself to see if Monique was here. And Monique, I think I saw you. So you're still here. Awesome. Maybe this is your last night with us before you have a baby. And Lisbeth is here, Christina, and I think I saw Jeff. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Michelle says it's her first time watching, and Tamla is here. Welcome, guys. We're going to have a good time tonight. I always like, oh, shoot, I didn't share my screen yet. I have all these little things that I do, to get ready. And have you guys ever had one of those days that just, I know you have, that just like goes by in a blink? That was my day today. It was like, seriously, time to have the class, which is exciting. Say hello, which you all are doing in the chat. If you want to share what brings you to this course, that would be great. A couple things I know I say every time, but since we do have some first timers, I will say it again. I think you get the most out of the course if you are able to take some notes, to interact in the chat, to ask questions, to utilize any extra resources that I link to down below. Down below the video in the description field is where I try to put all of my resources and do any homework that I might suggest. I haven't been heavy on the homework, have I? Maybe I should add more homework. And then any support of the channel is greatly appreciated. So whether that is sharing, liking, doing a super chat. I know Tim was awesome and did a super chat the other day, which is cool. And there have been some other ones, but all of those types of support of the channel really help me keep up the free classes. Also, we have a book that goes along with the course. If you're interested in it, it's available digitally and physically. And I sent some out today, actually, to some students. And tonight, if you want a reference, we are going to cover pages 22 and 23 for our How Birth Works. And our comfort measures are kind of scattered. So I don't have the exact page for that, but we are doing it. So I'm missing out on some of the fun stuff that's happening in the chat, but I will catch up. I will try to catch up with you guys. Today, our topics are induction and peaceful birthing environment is our coping strategy coping method is creating a peaceful birthing environment. So here's the thing. Before I jump on into induction, induction is something that in previous years, times that I have covered this topic, sometimes I feel like I am kind of rushing through, because the way that my brain sees induction are I want to show two things going on. I want to see, I want to make sure that I explain how it works. So the how birth works section. And there are several ways to be induced and lots of little pieces of information in there. That's a lot. And then the other thing is why induction, sort of the when is induction suggested, what are the reasons, what are the indications, what are the questions you might ask. And whenever I try to throw both of those sections in sort of one either hour or day or like piece of a class, I always feel like I'm like, like a fire hose just shooting out information at my students, and people are kind of like leave sort of shell shocked, like, wow, she really told us about induction, and that's a lot of information. So I want to start with how induction works. So sort of all of the pieces and parts of induction. And Monique, I know that you might, or you have induction possibly tomorrow night. So this will be good timing because the why, I'm sure your why is already out there. So we're going to do how today, induction, part 1. And tomorrow we're going to do the why. Does that make sense, you guys? Can you understand? We don't want to cover too much. And that's why I was a little hesitant to put all of my topics out there, like matched with every day, because I knew I was going to be a little bit, we have to have some wiggle room when we teach. So that's what we're doing. Yes. Cool. Okay. Do I say yay, Tim? Tim says, I got to put you on the screen there for a second, Tim. I think I do. I must say that a lot. You can blame me. At least I'm not cursing, right? And you're blaming me for that. And there's that. That's funny. It's not until you start watching yourself on video that you like pick up on all these weird things that you do, when I always look to the side when I'm thinking, and I didn't realize that I do that, but I do. Okay, let's start going. So induction has a couple of phases. Now you guys remember, let me get out my props. And I actually just posted that video that I told you guys about. I saw Hunter and Monique at the premiere this morning, which I don't think I'll do again because it's kind of anticlimactic. But I did a video that talks about the breakdown of the cervix, how the cervix changes, which I talked about in the very first class 1. And we also talked about station, and those together format something called a Bishop score. So I'm really going to cover the Bishop score probably more tomorrow on why inductions, but how inductions are done have to do with your cervix too. So for those of you who were at the first class or have seen me demonstrate a cervix with these two items, you'll understand. This, of course, this is where we're going for, right? And this is the beginning of our cervix. Our cervix is thick and it's closed. Imagine this is just a closed, thick cervix, about 1 inch long. And it, just like if this was made out of Play-Doh and it moved, it thinned and it opened, and it ended up with this, right? Okay. So when an induction is done, the first thing that is determined is how. Like, what are we going to do to induce? So induce, just to back up a little bit, inducing means to put someone into labor. So there are times when our care providers need to put us into labor, get labor started. And there are a few methods that can be done to make this happen. And the first kind of, if we're thinking about like a tree branch, is this happening? Yes, here, no, here, right? The first thing that we look at is the cervix open? So has the cervix opened any? If the cervix has not opened any, or also is very thick, so maybe the cervix is a little bit opened, but it's still very thick, then the first step of an induction should be the thinning of a cervix. So effacement. So effacement should be the first goal of induction. If the cervix has already thinned some and it's open a little, then we jump to opening the cervix. So I want to start with thinning of the cervix and talk about what that looks like. So cervix, when you want to thin a cervix, the other word, which is kind of funny, they use is ripening. We need to ripen that cervix, which is weird. It's a little bit like a vegetable or fruit. I guess fruit more than vegetable, right? That we're trying to ripen. And there are a few methods that are done in North America regularly to ripen a cervix. And what I've learned over the years, especially working both in Atlanta as a doula and in Seattle as a doula, and just talking to doula colleagues around the US and Canada, that it really depends on the area of the world and your hospital and your provider. So Judy, I understand. Judy says, ew, I don't like that term, ripening. Yeah, it's a little funny. You won't forget it, though. You will not forget that, Judy. If your care provider says your cervix needs to be ripened, you'll be like, okay, I got it, thinned. So the two methods kind of depend on where you are. And it's almost like you're either in one school, you're Coke or Pepsi, In Atlanta, Coke all the way, right? Actually, I don't know what they drink out here in Seattle. Interesting. But Coke or Pepsi, in this case, it's Cervidil or misoprostol. Okay, misoprostol. I say it, so that's hard to say. It's also called Cytotec. So Cervidil, what that is it's almost like a tampon that's flat. And if you can imagine that, I didn't bring a tampon to show you guys. You're going to have to use your visualization here. And then they put, at the end of this tampon device is the medication that is used for the cervical ripening, okay? And then they insert it into your vagina, and it goes all the way up until your cervix. So bloop, and it just sits there, and usually for about 12 hours, that medication sits on your cervix. So again, it's called Cervidil. Now this is the one that they use in Atlanta still all the time. Like if they're inducing, that is like standard. That's the case. That's how they do it. And the thing about the Cervidil is that if there was an allergic reaction, so if for some reason your body did not respond well to that medicine, they can remove it because it has a string on it and they take it out. And then usually because the medication isn't right up against your cervix anymore, your uterus calms down. So an adverse reaction or an allergic reaction, whatever you want to call it, would be if your uterus is just contracting too much. So a uterus that contracts too much is not healthy for the baby because they aren't able to kind of rest in between that contractions. Okay, so that's one option. The other option is Cytotec, which is a pill, okay? So it's a pill that is given either orally, you swallow it, let it dissolve, or vaginally, so it's inserted, okay? And Keisha, it is the one that has, there are reports, or it's in the news, that there have been I don't know the statistics, but there have been some very adverse effects of that drug, though they have really changed how they use it. So it's a lot less, the risk is a lot less than it was, 15 years ago. So that's good. But with the pill, they do it in a low dose, and then they give it every 4 hours. And that is the negative is that if there was some kind of adverse effect, it's not as easily removed. So they would have to maybe give like another drug to relax your uterus or something like that if there's adverse effects. So what the protocol often is, because both of these, no matter which one is used, they usually don't start like regular contractions. So again, this is more of a softening. This is more of a gentle start to induction. And so what the protocol is usually going in at nighttime. So then, you get checked into the hospital, you get situated, you get monitored. Remember our monitors that we talked about are external monitors. You're monitored in bed usually, and then both or either of those drugs are administered. And then the best case is that you're able to sleep for either the entire 12 hours that they're in or the 4-hour increments, so that you can sleep during that ripening part. Because we've got a long way to go, right? If we start out here and we have to get here, starting out with a gentle ripening is a good way to start. So what the person that has that drug, if you are the laboring person, you'll probably feel, or I should say, the most common thing you feel are crampiness, like menstrual cramps, just kind of like off, not necessarily anything that has, what are the 3 things that we look for when we know that they're real labor contractions? Put them in the chat. Tell me what the 3 things, as far as what you're feeling, that sensation. Is it like a real not painful, but real productive contraction? I know you guys know. A da, and a da. 3 things. You don't feel that usually with these ripening agents. It's more just kind of gentle, uncomfortable. A lot of times, healthcare providers might offer a sleep aid, like a Ambien or Benadryl. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So they don't usually you don't usually experience contractions that have these 3 things in them. It's more just kind of like crampiness. Where's the start? Where's the stop? I don't really know. So a lot of care providers will offer a sleep aid. And I always get that question from clients, like, should I take something? I don't know. And my advice is, like, if you're someone who has taken an Ambien before and you know what it's like, you know how your body is affected by it, then and then you can make a better choice, because you're like, yeah, I'm able to take those and those work for me. I don't mind, I'm open to it or whatever. If you've never had one before, I might be a little bit more cautious, because, and I say the same thing about Benadryl. The weird thing about Benadryl is that, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but some people it makes very sleepy. Me. Some people it hypes them up like a stimulant. So you wouldn't want that, right? So, kind of ask your questions and weigh your decisions. Let's see. Lisbeth said, do you experience the cramping with unassisted thinning? So, Lisbeth, do you mean like just, you're not being induced, you're just going about your day and you're thinning? Do you feel crampiness? I think that's your question. And my answer is going to be sometimes. So some people, their cervical, they're thinning, they're dilating, and they don't even feel anything. Like they're just going about their regular life. They're taking care of their kids, they're going to their job, whatever. And then they find out, oh my gosh, I'm already 2 centimeters dilated and 50% effaced. But other people experience a lot of crampiness. Like maybe they'll have like 5 nights in a row where they'll wake up and be like, oh, something's going on. This isn't labor. I don't know really what it is. And that's usually cervical thinning. So that if people experience, I was going to say, if you experience the mucus plug, like it's some kind of experience, woo, mucus plug. This is exciting. If you notice or see the mucus plug come out or bloody show, something is going on with this, your cervix. It has to be open at least enough so that the bloody show or the mucus plug can come out. And likely your cervix is also thinning. So that gives you a little idea. Thought I was going to sneeze about what's going on. So, it's usually 12 hours. It's usually the first part of the induction process if your cervix isn't open. So if your cervix is going to be, if it needs to be ripened, it'll usually be one of these 2 options. And that process, this is the hard news. And Tim, I don't know your story, but I know you were there for quite a while and you did share that you were being induced. But if your cervix doesn't thin quickly, or it is a slow response to medication, I've seen some providers have that thinning process last like a full day. So it'll go from like the first 12 hours like overnight, and then all of a sudden you have to go through the whole process again tomorrow morning. Okay, I need to grab my baby. Hold on. Here's baby. So it also, how low our baby is in our pelvis also has an effect. So if we're trying to thin, we're giving medicine to thin the cervix, baby's nice and low, putting a lot of pressure, then it might be faster. If baby's high in our pelvis, not putting a lot of pressure, there's a lot of fluid in between, then we might go a little bit slow. Yep. Okay. Whew. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I don't want to sneeze on camera. Okay, let me look at questions. Whew. Oh, this is a good question. Melissa says, if you are experiencing 511, are people generally at similar levels of effacement and dilation? No. That is such a good question, Melissa. You would think that would correspond well. Like 511 is right about, you're 2 centimeters dilated or something like that. Nope. Like I have seen the whole spectrum of that. And a lot of it has to do with if you've had a baby before. So if you've had a baby before, you're usually further along in your dilation and thinning and effacement at a 511 than a first timer. I've seen first timers easily at 0 with a 511. So that's a great question. Monique says, what if they plan Cervidil, but you're 2 centimeters and well effaced already? Could they simply just begin you on Pitocin once they've examined you again? That is not specific. I mean, yes, Monique, that is specific, but it's an excellent question. And it leads me right into my next piece. So what if you are already dilated? Now, so someone who is 2 centimeters dilated and over half, over 50% effaced, to me, it's very rare that they would do a Cervidil. That would be most likely go straight to an opening. So using, which is what I'm going to talk about there's actually 2 ways that a cervix can be opened, 2 strategies. So yeah, and Monique, it might even be something that you have a conversation with your care provider and say like, I don't really want to start my laboring at night if they give you a nighttime induction, because they might this happened a lot in Atlanta. I worked there for so long. It was like, we schedule everybody for a nighttime induction. That's just how they would do it. But if you end up and you get there and you don't need the Cervidil, then they'll start Pitocin. Well, do you really want to start Pitocin at night? No, because I'm going to tell you that it's different. That's where you're going to get the peaks and stops. So it's not really a time to sleep. Yeah, so let me know if that makes sense. I'm going to go into more detail though. Okay, so if your cervix has already opened some and has already effaced some, usually the first stage that they will start with is opening, the 2 ways to open your cervix. If whether you had to go in for the thinning or all the thinning happened at home, when you're ready to start the opening phase of labor, there are 2 ways that your body can, or that can be, induction can happen. So there is a manual method and there is a pharmacologic method. So I'm going to start with the manual one. It's one that, I was going to show you guys something. I can't find it. I'll describe it. It's the one that a lot of people, I think, don't know about. It's less common. And some providers don't necessarily offer it, though it's very old-fashioned. So it's not like something that's like new that isn't known. And that's called a catheter induction. So it can either be called, it's either a Foley catheter, which is like what's used with urine, a little bit different use this time, or a Cook's catheter. But what it looks like, use your visualization here, is a straw with like a either 1 balloon or 2 balloon kind of at the end. So you take the straw, insert it into the vagina through the hole that's opening in the cervix. Okay, so that the straw is on the other side. You're through the cervix. Then fluid, saline fluid, is entered into the straw and it fills up on this side of the cervix, almost like a little, I call it a fake water baby, like a fake baby head, like made out of water. And on the other side of your cervix, right here, straw is still going down through. And then the straw, this flexible catheter, is like taped to your leg, kind of like pulling down. So I don't know if anybody's cringing because the way I describe it, it's the only way you can describe it. And it is kind of cringy, but there are some positives over other methods. So I want to make sure everybody knows about this method. So it's basically pushing, causing kind of a manual opening of the cervix, manual pressure on the cervix. And the ball, the difference between the Foley and the Cook's is the Cook's has 2 balls that kind of sandwich the cervix. And it really just depends on the care provider, which kind they use. The chat is really quiet right now. I'm a little bit worried about if I scared someone from my fake baby head. Okay, I know. Sorry. Thank you, Inka. Inka is a doula, just like me. And so, yes, mechanical rather than chemical. So that method usually opens to the dilation of this water, bubble. So that bubble is usually, I've seen anywhere from about 3 centimeters to 5 centimeters when it comes out. And it is really weird when it comes out. A lot of times I've had clients say something's happening down there, like, I don't know. And then it like, bloop, falls out. So yes, Hunter, you're a doula too. We've got several doulas. I think we've got a few doulas in the chat. If you're a doula, you can out yourself. So the catheter comes out, the Foley catheter comes out, and you're left with your cervix opened to maybe 3, 4, 5, depending upon your cervix. Thinning can vary, the effacement can vary. And then from that place, there are options to either go on to a pharmacologic method, a Pitocin, or maybe to a rupture of membranes, or maybe your body, just from all the hormones, all the oxytocin that was emitted during that process of the pressure on the cervix, releasing of the oxytocin, maybe that just kind of jump-started your labor, and that's all that you need is just that jump start. I would say, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about water breaking. There are some providers I've seen that do them together, that do the mechanical, manual type dilation, and also add Pitocin. I don't see that as much, but I have seen that. As far more, I don't imagine it to be more painful or rather uncomfortable than an exam or a sweep. It really varies. I've seen such a spectrum. I say that all the time when I'm teaching childbirth class. It varies. There's a spectrum. But it is true. Like, I've seen people just be like, I had no idea. It was fine. I was just sitting there, resting, reading. And then people having to really work through it and, do all of our coping strategies. Sometimes the insertion of it will hurt. Also depending upon how experienced, where the position of your cervix is. If your cervix is still kind of posterior, the positioning of, the inserting of the catheter can be a little more difficult. Thank you, Hunter. 30 minutes. Awesome. Halfway. So that can vary. Now, the Pitocin is the one that we hear about, I think, more than any of them. So Pitocin is an IV. It's a drip that's given through IV, and it's titrated. So what that means, anybody who's been in a college chemistry class, that's where I titrated for the first time, is where they are giving you increasing dosage in very small steps until they get your contractions to what they call adequate contractions. And adequate contractions, what most care providers call adequate, is contractions about every 3 minutes, lasting about a minute. So however much of the Pitocin your body needs to get there, that's where you would be. And however long that takes to get into that pattern is your experience. So this is a spectrum. You knew I was going to say that, right? I know you did. I have seen people get Pitocin and start feeling some contractions building within, the first hour. And I've worked with clients that it has taken, 24 hours of, or 12 hours of increasing. And then they've turned it off, and then they let you sleep and then try the next day. So that is a spectrum. And the risks, we talked about the risks of the thinning agents that they might cause that uterine hyperstimulation. The risks for induction with mostly the Pitocin, the Foley catheter, if there are any negative side effects, like if the fetal heart rate is not going, the fetal heart rate, if the fetus has heart rate issues, if your baby is having any kind of issues, they can just drain it and take it out and no problem. So it's easy to just be done with. Pitocin also can be turned off or lessened if there's any issues. But the main thing that, the two main things about Pitocin contractions is that they are often stronger for a longer period of time. So I think what's hard about induction is, when you learn about labor, it kind of makes sense, I think, where your body it kind of eases you into the difficult part of labor. So contractions start off light and they're far apart and they don't last very long. And then time passes by and they're longer, stronger, they're closer together. And then time passes by and then it's longer, stronger, closer together. And, have you guys ever experienced that with anything else? If you ease into something, then by the time you get to the harder thing, it's like, okay, I built up my strategies. I built up my confidence. I got my groove going. And so when they really got strong, I was like able to cope, or I found what I needed to do. And the hard thing about Pitocin is that sometimes the Pitocin just kind of jumps you right to that hard part. And so you don't have that nice easing up. So, because with non-induced labor, you don't experience contractions 3 minutes apart until usually right around active, if not active labor, which is that 5-6 whatever centimeter mark. But with Pitocin, the goal is to get you into that pattern, and that might be when you're 1 centimeter dilated. And so at 1 centimeter dilated, you're experiencing them every 3 minutes, and you're experiencing them every 3 minutes until the baby's born. So you end up having a lot of contractions. I remember so clearly working with this one family who was being induced, and I got to the hospital and they had done the Sorbitol overnight. I met them when they were doing Pitocin, and I remember that mom went into the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and I was out, just kind of talking to her partner, and he looked at me and he was like, the contractions are 3 minutes apart. That means she's in active labor. I remember from class, and I had been their childbirth educator. And I was like, well, yes, but not with induction. So he thought, oh, we're already there. Like that, how can that be possible? So it's not, it doesn't necessarily work that way. You can't, you have the pattern of an active labor, sometimes with the cervix of an early labor all the way up. So there's that. And then, which can lead to more of a need for pain medication. I talked about epidurals yesterday, and I think it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. If you're someone who's like, you want to use all your tools first before you get to the epidural, you might go through the tools faster with a Pitocin than what you thought about, than what you thought when you first visualized how you were going to deal with labor. Not necessarily. I mean, I don't want to say that everybody is totally different. I have worked with some amazing people that went through induction that just no pain medication, used all those coping strategies, breathing and moving and rocking, and had a baby and whatever. But because of that frequency and length of time, it can be different. So I want to be honest about that. Also, sometimes we see an increase in fetal heart rate issues because also the baby is experiencing a different pattern. So the good news is that Pitocin can be turned off, but it's not uncommon that the baby sometimes does need a break because those contractions are in such a quick pattern. Let me just stop and answer a couple questions I see come in. Is induction usually both for effacing and dilation? Is it possible that induction for effacement alone will jumpstart dilation as well? It is possible. It is possible. More likely for someone who's had a baby before. Inductions are usually easier on people who a cervix that's already been through labor, a body that's been through labor. But yeah, it is possible. And Jasmine says, does Pitocin at least speed up dilation, or does the time to dilate stay the same? There's a spectrum. It varies. I would say in general, if you asked a doula this question, like, what's your experience watching an induction? I would say inductions in general significantly longer than for first timers. For first timers, inductions are significantly longer than going into labor naturally. that's not, I don't have a research study to show that. That's just more of what I've experienced. The other thing that induction can increase the need for a C-section, and it's because of what I already mentioned, the fetal heart rate issues also. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Lizbeth said, baby position is a real important thing. Definitely, and how low baby is. Joshua says, sounds like something to avoid if it's going to put the baby under stress and result in an emergency C-section. So, yeah, I mean, Joshua, class 6, that's right. Class 6 is when I introduced the Lamaze 6 healthy birth practices. And one of the healthy birth practices is to let labor begin on its own and avoid routine intervention. So if it's routine, if it's not necessary, then yeah, I think your gut is right saying it's something to avoid. There are definitely reasons that people choose an induction, an elective induction, and I'm going to talk about the whys tomorrow in part 2. We're going to go kind of in depth into that, but yeah, you're thinking. I mean, I understand what you're thinking. Cool. Okay, 20 minutes left. Let me go through a couple more thoughts, and then we'll get to our coping strategy. Awesome conversation in the chat. Let me know if all of this is kind of coming together in your brain, the ways to induce. Let's see. The other thing, artificial rupture of membranes. So breaking the water. Sometimes that is done in conjunction with the 2 dilating methods. So possibly like after the Foley catheter, maybe breaking the water. Sometimes the water breaks on its own. Sometimes with Pitocin, it can be a routine thing that they do Pitocin for a little while until you get to like a 4 centimeters or 5 centimeters and then break the water, just to help bring that baby down and put pressure on the cervix and speed up labor, have more success at dilating. Sometimes there are providers that will induce someone who has already had a baby vaginally, just with a artificial rupture of membranes. So if your baby's head is super low, engaged in the pelvis already dilated, some, 3 centimeters dilated, already engaged, sometimes just breaking the water is enough that alone is an induction, starts up labor. I have seen that with, it really varies by practice, but I have seen that with a VBAC before, somebody vaginal birth after cesarean that needs to be induced for a medical reason and has gone that route. Let's see. Tara says, are you able to move freely while on Pitocin? Are you limited like an epidural? No, so you are able to move freely. The only issue is that you have a pole, right? You have like a pole that you take with you. Don't let this pole make you stay in bed because it is people think that if you have a pole, you have to stay in bed. No, you can go everywhere. You can move it to the bathroom. A lot of people have the flexibility depending upon the monitors that they can labor in the bathroom, in the shower, in the tub, depends on your practice. I got to call out Christina. I have a new sound. Christina, thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat. You don't have to stay in bed. You do though. I showed these little guys and mentioned in the beginning that you have to be monitored with if you guys remember from monitoring night, maybe that was class 3. Can't remember now. You have to be continuously monitored with induction. So any of the techniques, you have to be continuously monitored. With the exception of the catheter, some practices will do intermittent monitoring. And some practices in the US and Canada will actually can send you home with the catheter in. I've never had a client experience that, but I have heard of it before. So yeah, very, very big spectrum of what's normal. Agree, Joshua. What Joshua said. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Free Spirit. Hello, Free Spirit. I didn't see you there. Can you touch on elective induction? Yes. So tomorrow, in part 2, I am going to talk about elective induction. So the whys for induction is my whole spiel tomorrow. So I definitely go through that. Yes. Alan, good question. Alan, welcome back. Once the water breaks, how long is it safe until the baby's born? So usually the general rule is that a lot of providers would like to see labor going really strong by 24 hours, like on your way to a baby. But it really varies by your provider, their comfort level. But once your water breaks, you want to avoid vaginal exams. You want to avoid anything that could introduce bacteria to the baby. So great question. Let's see. Monique said, in Canada, that's what I'm told. If I get Cervidil, they would send me home for a few hours. Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. That's really cool that you'd have that flexibility. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Let me look. What else I have thoughts? It's hard to predict inductions. Yes, hard to predict inductions. I have all my notes here in case you wonder why I'm not looking at you. I just want to make sure I say everything I want to say. Strategies with labor. Do you guys remember when we talked about dilation? Contractions. You don't want to be in labor. You don't want to mentally be in labor until you're in labor, just like with regular non-induced. So if you're at the hospital being induced and not much is going on, sleep. Even if it's like 2 p.m, laying down, sleeping. Okay. Sleep and rest as much as possible. If you do have that overnight piece where you have to, get the ripening agent and then wake up, and then before you start the opening process, ask if you can take a shower and have a big breakfast. It is huge. It's so important to refresh yourself, have your partner take a shower, start a new day. Mentally, that shift is so huge. Even if they want to start the Pitocin at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., which I know seems weird, but it has to do with scheduling and personnel and shift change at the hospital and all that. But I've seen when people just have a moment to regroup, it's really, really good. Sometimes, this is another kind of mindset thing. Sometimes, and I'm seeing that more actually common right now with the pandemic, a lot of providers are encouraging inductions. And what happens is the hospitals get busy, and sometimes you will be given an induction appointment and it gets bumped. This is hard. And I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow, about the whys of induction, but it's mentally super challenging. You guys can imagine. I mean, you have an induction scheduled for, Thursday, and then Thursday night comes and you get a call from the hospital and they say, sorry, you can't come in. You got to wait till Friday. And it's like, well, if you wanted me to be induced so much, why are you putting it off another day? It can be mentally challenging, but I'm seeing that more and more, and I'm hearing from other doulas around the U.S. and Canada that's happening. So try to be flexible, try to be open. Yes, and the other last thought I wanted to just make sure I mention about inductions is that you can always ask to have Pitocin. This is in regards to Pitocin. You can always ask to have Pitocin turned down. It's not always a yes, or maybe it's more of a, you have to really advocate for yourself to try to get that. But here's the scenario that I've seen happen. You're using your coping strategies. Maybe you're like, yeah, epidural, I'm planning on it, but I don't know when. And then all of a sudden, your body really picks up on the Pitocin, and you're having these really strong contractions, and you're just not able to catch your breath. with, get caught up with the coping strategies, and you say like, can you turn it down just a little bit so I can like get into a rhythm, or I'd like to go ahead and get the process started for an epidural. Can we turn it down until I get the epidural? And if you get pushback on this, can you just have them like call me? Just give them my number. Just say, can you call my childbirth educator or post on her YouTube channel, because she's got some words. I've seen this happen and it makes me a little bit angry. I'm just going to be honest that, if you have to turn down the Pitocin and it slows your induction down by, I don't know, an hour, but you're able to cope better. And again, you're the one having the experience, right? And so if you say, I don't mind that it takes another hour, I don't want to experience all these back-to-back contractions until I get my epidural. Please let me just get my epidural and then we can go back to the pattern. So yeah, that just like, I've seen it happen. And I just, when let me tell you the scenario, this happens. If this is the interaction where, you're like, can we turn down the Pitocin? And maybe it's, partner talking, saying, can we turn down the Pitocin while I wait until we get the epidural going? And your care provider's like, no, really, we got to keep it going because we're on a schedule. And say, well, can we have 5 minutes to talk? And then when the provider's out of the way, then you can be like, look, we got to think of strategy because this is not okay. So next time I come in, please turn the epidural down. We'd like the epidural please turn the Pitocin down. We'd like the epidural before it's turned back up. Okay. I started to get on the soapbox there, guys. Did you guys see that? I started to get a little bit like worked up. I feel strongly about that. Okay. We're not doing a game show tonight. No time for games. We got to talk about environment. I pulled up let me find it. There it is. I pulled up one of the cheat sheets that is included in the handy handouts that I recommend that you print this if you have the 8 handy handouts and bring it to labor, or have it on your phone or whatever. And there's actually another version in Supporting Her. So those of you who might be in Supporting Her, which is that, I can't point right there, that program. So it's my online program for partners. I just realized that I don't have the updated handout in there. So I'm going to update it if you're in there. One of the simplest coping strategies that really just goes to like boost all of your other strategies is to try to set up a peaceful birthing environment. And sometimes people discount this, it like, I don't really care about what it's like, or I don't mind, what the lights are, or music or whatever. But, we do have preferences, and it's okay to have preferences. You're not like, high maintenance. Do people even use that term anymore? High maintenance. You're not, I can't think of another word. You're not extra. Extra? I should ask my teenagers what the other word for that is. If you ask for certain things, so things like keeping the labor room door closed, knocking quietly, asking for machines to be set at a low volume, avoid talking during contractions, turn lights down low, dim lights, quiet voices, positive attitude, smiling and supportive, all of this stuff, to just create that peaceful environment. That will make all of your other coping strategies just a lot better. And sometimes, I see a whole variety, but sometimes, you guys know how it is with your job. Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see it and make me small. Do you ever find with whatever job that you do that you kind of forget some of the details because you've done it a million times, right? And so it's not as special of a time or a day or whatever. It's just the same old day. Seems like that's how it is sometimes within hospitals and care providers. But if you like turn the lights down low, have some light music, have some battery operated candles, or even like something that smells good, like a diffuser or something scented, you'll see them like knock on the door and come in and be like, oh, it's so nice in here. Wow, this is such a nice environment. I really love this room. So, if you set the tone of like, this is our peaceful birthing environment, this is what we really need your help supporting, this is going to help us, have a good experience, then that is usually respected. And it just really, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. So I was only going to talk about music tonight because I'm such a music person. I think everybody should utilize music in labor, but music is really just one piece of that birthing environment. Though it is a great activity for you and your partner to sit down and like come up with a strategy of the music that you want. Do you want like a certain Spotify playlist? Do you want, to have spa music? Do you want to have your favorite artists? Do you want to have like some that is like peppy and energizing and some that's soothing, and you can kind of have the options? That's what I recommend. I made a playlist for birth and I listened to it. This is with my last two. And I listened to it coming up to birth. So like I knew the order of everything. And it was like one of those like background comforting things. And it's really good. Okay, so let me see questions. Oh, Tim, yes, Tim. Totally. Tim, I experienced this with a client not too long ago, actually. The position of the baby really does have a lot to do with birth. The cervidil and the Foley, yeah. Whew. And, so much of baby's position is we can't help. We can't, even with the best like tricks and techniques and everything, there's just nothing you can do. So, Tim, your partner, rock star. Tell her if she's not, you're a rock star, Tim's partner. Let's see. Let me see what else before we do our practice. Oh, this is a good one, Keisha. This no medical students. You have every right to say you don't want medical students at your birth. So if you are at a teaching hospital and you don't want that, that is okay. I think that everyone is different and everyone has the right to say that they don't want students. And there's plenty of people that don't mind. So there's plenty of people giving birth. You can do what you do as much as you can. It's okay. Okay, guys. Induction, peaceful birthing environment. How are we doing on peaceful birthing environment? Does that feel good? Any questions about that? I'm pulling up our 30 seconds. Also, you can't necessarily set up, I'm not giving you enough time to set up a peaceful birthing environment, but you can do, last night when we talked about visualization, if you were here, you can do a visualization with this 30-second practice. But what I definitely want everyone to do is make sure they're doing the long, slow breaths in, slow breaths out, to be doing some type of movement or get in a position that they're moving, maybe doing some kind of rhythm, watching their limp and loose parts, no bum clenching, all of those. And maybe even doing some vocalization, that nice and low. And our visualization, remember last night I walked you through the getting out of bed and walking to the kitchen. You could do that one again. You could do a favorite place. It's up to you. But how are we doing? Are we ready? Okay, I think we're ready. Awesome. Let's do it. 8 days of practice. I know it's just a little practice, but it's something. Okay, guys. If you have not seen, and I should have put the link down below, darn it. I'll put it in, or maybe I put it in the insider. If you're not an insider, I didn't mention, make sure you fill out the link down below so you can get all the information about the class and keep in touch with any things that are going on. If you have not watched the video that I just put out today, I used my bullet journal to explain, kind of an explainer video about the cervix and there we go. But that didn't work. Go ahead and watch that before next class if you have time, because we're going to talk about the whys of induction and different reasons for induction, different conversations you can have and options and all that stuff is tomorrow, along with another coping strategy, of course. If you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and hit the like button. Every day of these 8 days, I had no idea what was going to happen when I started teaching live on YouTube, these classes. I just thought it would be hopefully helpful to anybody who can't find the right class to meet their needs. I thought it would be fun, and YouTube is such a great platform that I wanted to give it a shot. And the fact that so many of you guys are coming back and posting and interacting with each other, it's really amazing. And I just want to thank you for taking your time and spending time with me and talking about something that is such an important life event. And it's never a waste of time, spending time with planning for a birth. So thank you again for being here. I'll be back tomorrow and every day until the 14th, which you guys know what's happening on the 14th. We're going to have our Kahoot, and we're going to have a celebration of the end of the series. So I want to say a big shout out to Monique for her upcoming labor induction. Who knows? Monique, you've got to promise to come back. Just like Tim. Tim set the precedence. Precedence? Why can't I think that word is right? Tim, you're the leader to come back and let us know. So Monique, you got to come back and let us know what happened. Okay. We're all going to be waiting tomorrow and looking in the chat to see if there's any news or the next day. Thanks you guys so much. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye.